Now I want to get to some of these questions. One is from Joseph Strong. Joseph says, hey, Arica, talk about what makes women respect men and view them as a strong person instead of an egotistical, self-centered, arrogant person they don't want to know. What makes a man seem self-confident yet still vulnerable and being open about who they are? Joseph, that's such a good practical question, and I'm so glad that you asked that. You know, let's just be really honest. Any guy, any person, and I see this a lot, we've misconstrued arrogance and being egotistical as confident, and it's not. I have watched people who come across as incredibly arrogant, incredibly self-centered, egotistical, and it comes from a place of fear. And so it's like most of the time people who have to be crazy loud about everything is because they're overcompensating for something that they're really fearful about. And so a broken woman will resonate with that energy because she's just as scared. So she will idolize that guy because he's coming across as big and vibrant and as in control, hoping that he's going to make her world better and make her feel safe. But they're both coming from the same posture, and it's a posture of fear that both of them have a bunch of terror in their lives that they're trying to overcompensate with finding a guy who is unhealthy like this and a guy who's just living very fake. It's not who he is below. He's just as insecure. He's just as timid, but he doesn't have the balls, the courage, the tenacity, and the capacity to show up that way. So a man who's actually confident, he's not going to be as in your face all the time. He's going to express humility. He's going to be comfortable with telling you like, hey, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm doing great, but this is where I struggle. There is safety in his presence. Like a confident man always will bring peace. He's like still waters. There's a calm that he will bring into his life. And so a guy who's unapologetic, he's not always trying to overcompensate because he also knows his weaknesses, but he refuses to apologize for those weaknesses as well. He says, this is where I am and this is where I'm growing. But it comes from a posture of peace. This is a guy who's learning to face himself and face his demons, and therefore he loves himself because he's not turning away from himself, but he's actually turning into himself. Joseph, I hope that helped you. Hey, this is from Tony Irving. He says, hey, Arica, I hope you're okay and safe and well. I have a question for you. If you're in a relationship and you clash on a few issues and you stand firm and you're unapologetic in your beliefs, what's the best way to handle the situation? Or does a relationship come first and you back down? This is my question for you to use. I hope that it helps you. God bless you. You're amazing, gorgeous, and wonderful. Keep up the good work. Stay strong and be proud of yourself. Oh, thank you, Tony. So here's the thing in relationships. The nice guy in relationships will back down because he doesn't want conflict. And here, I want you to understand this about being unapologetic. The not wanting conflict comes from a place of fear and insecurity. The place of coming from peace is creating the connection. Creating peace does not mean abstaining from fear. So in that relationship, when there's an issue, it's like, sweetheart, I hear what you're saying, and I'm sure for you that is your truth. However, this is why I created my boundaries Bible, because I have an ability to communicate these things, and guys are like, shit, if I could say it that way. So I understand that you feel that way and you believe this way, and that's your truth. However, I have a different experience. I have a different set of feelings. I have a different truth around this. So for the time being, you and I are going to have to agree to disagree. But what we must do right now is figure out a way how to come back to each other, because pay attention to this. Our connection is more important than who's right or who's wrong. But a lot of guys think that it's just back in like this whole thing of like happy wife, happy life. All that sounds really funny, but it's actually bullshit. Like at the end of the day, that becomes the man that the woman says, I don't love you anymore. I'm walking away. She has an affair. Is it because she's a bad woman? No, she quit respecting you because you aren't showing up in the relationship anymore. So being unapologetic says, look, no, this is how I still feel, and this is how I still believe, and it's not changing. So she feels that strength. She feels that power in you, that you're owning yourself, that you're being the spiritual alpha of your relationship. But love says, how do we come back together? Because love is greater than fear. So love says, we're going to have to let bygones be bygones on this. But you and I, our connection is most important. And so what are we going to do to come back to each other? Are we going to touch each other and hold each other until one of us starts crying? Till we have peace? Are we going to go for a walk? Are we just going to get in the bed and take our clothes off and make love to each other? We got to get connection back. But no, just backing down from what you believe in to make her happy is not the spiritual alpha way, nor is just being defiant, because that's immature. I see a lot of guys doing that, thinking, oh, I'm being strong, I'm being the alpha. No, you're just being an emotionally undeveloped man. That's all you're being when you're like, I'm just going to be defiant. Defiance without love is not love, and it ruins connection, and it will keep you alone and single for the rest of your life. This one is from TC. He says, I get what you mean by showing up unapologetically. There are a few folks in my life that like to cross my boundaries and push my buttons. Sometimes I need to arrive as my natural self to remind them to get back on their side of the fence. So here are a few potential questions you could ask. How will the other person or people react to my behavior? I actually don't think that needs to be your question. That's none of your business, nor is it your responsibility how they're going to react to your behavior. You can't control them. So if you can't control it, there's no point in asking it. Could they be insulted and hurt by my reaction to them stepping across the line? Once again, that's their responsibility. Your responsibility is, am I communicating this from my place of truth and from a place of love? Or am I communicating this from a place of insecurity and fear and needing to be right? It's always coming back to yourself. The spiritual alpha always checks back in with himself. So it's no, we don't want to hurt people, but sometimes speaking our truth does hurt people, and that's not our responsibility. Are we delivering it in love? Are we delivering it in peace? Are we delivering it in truth? Should I apologize for not being apologetic to someone who is a repeat offender, even if the explanation for this unattractive behavior from me has been discussed multiple times before? No, you don't apologize to this person. TC, I would recommend my boundaries course and my boundaries Bible to you, because you've got to challenge with some boundaries. There's a tone of acquiescing and people pleasing here. No, if someone keeps abusing your boundaries and is a repeat offender, if you're not married to them, I would ask why you are even in relationship with them, because they don't respect you, they don't value you. And sometimes pulling away in your absence will create the barrier for them to have to face themselves and go, am I willing to keep showing up in TC's life this way, because I'm going to lose him? And so I need to show up differently so that we can come together. But no, you cannot apologize to someone who doesn't respect you. What's there to apologize for? Lucas says, Dear Arica, what comes to my mind is showing up confidently the way we are and the way we are not, to be a source of ourselves, to accept fully who we are without need to explain, feel wrong or incomplete. Just be. I'm trying to see if there's a question. Nope, there's not a question here. But Lucas is sharing his voice, and I love that. So here is Thomas, and he says, how do you begin to show up unapologetically in all facets of your life? Thomas, I have an interesting thing that I want you to do. I want you to check in your life and show up, think about your workplace, how you relate to your friends, how you relate to your family, and ask where you get pissed off and where there's a lack of peace. Because right there, that's a sign where you're not showing up congruently. You're not being unapologetic. You're still trying to acquiesce and make other people happy. So what is disturbing your peace and your relationships? Start there, because you need to understand where in your life you're showing up unapologetically. So that's how you begin to show up, is start confronting those areas where you're not showing up unapologetically. And the next thing that you got to